Now streaming live on custom live streaming service. Let's go. That's exciting. This is only my second ever live stream. You guys, I know, Kendall, you did this. We did this the other day.
Yeah.
My first, I think.
Have you all done this?
First.
I don't know. Live stream every.
You've never been on a live stream.
I'm live.
Yeah.
We are live, everybody. It's pretty exciting. We are here to kind of talk a little bit about how to kill it at home with your spouse instead of kill your spouse at home.
And we're all still alive, so
yeah.
I mean, we must be doing pretty good.
That's right. That's right. So as folks are logging on here, I'll just encourage you guys, comment with funny things that have happened and maybe in your marriage over the last couple of weeks, maybe some funny stories or questions you may have. Even if you have a great answer to what that question might be, share that. If you have great advice, share it. If you have don't do this, share that. Those are always funny, because we all know they're always coming from personal experience. So just to kind of give you a heads up, we're gonna kind of get to know the couples here in just a minute. We're just gonna interact with anybody who's jumping on for a minute. But then we're gonna get to know all the couples here. We have a couple new staff members, which is exciting, jumping on here with us that y'all may not know quite as well. And so we'll introduce them. We'll ask each other some fun questions, and then we'll answer any questions that y'all have, and we've come up with a couple of our own, of course, and then we'll end with our best advice ever. No pressure for couples. Whatever you guys got cooked up.
Thanks for the heads up, Eddie. Really appreciate that.
The best ever. We talked about a tip, but not the best ever tip. So that's all we got. So awesome. Kendall, we have anything coming in to the comments or anything yet?
No comments, but there's a lot. Hey, Tiffany, Bethany, Laura, Kelly. Hey, Mama.
Hi, Mom.
We got Hunter and Tav and Daryl.
What's up, everybody?
Hello.
Daryl can't. Freeman is gonna head out soon, but he just wanted to pop in. He's got a it looks like a student group.
Daryl Freeman. Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool thing about Daryl is he's leading the guys that he just finished student group with. He graduated with them. Them going to be, go to college and whatnot. But he decided anybody who's staying local can join this adult group that I'm going to lead for you guys. So that's
nice.
Yeah, that's fabulous. Thanks, Daryl.
Yeah.
Really cool.
Awesome. Welcome everybody. We have just a couple seconds before we jump in. I'm going to be kind of hosting a little bit tonight, and we'll be jumping back and forth between questions that we've all come up with together, and then jumping into questions that you guys are submitting. So continue submitting questions, submitting advice, funny stories that have happened to you over the last couple of weeks with your spouses, anything like that. Go ahead and throw in those comments there. Throw hello. We would love to say hello to you as well. So glad you're joining us. And this is the WEX episode on how to kill it at home with your spouse instead of killing your spouse at home. Yes, exactly like that. And I promise you that every one of us have been in that very moment, maybe not physically with our hands around each other's necks, but verbally or who knows. We've all been at each other's throats, and so we are right there with you. It has not been the easiest last couple weeks by any means. Do we all agree with that?
Yes.
It's been pretty easy.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying this. It's awesome. So let's go ahead and introduce ourselves. My name's Eddie. I'm I'm the pastor of missions and guest experience at Yorktown, and we're going to also say how long we've been married and what we do on staff. So Molly and I have been married for 6 years in May. Crush that. See how fast I got that, guys?
And practice.
And it's kind of fitting that I'm hosting because I believe we're the youngest married. And so I just get to ask all the questions and, throw in my 2 cents if I actually have any. So why don't Stephanie, you give us a little bit. Oh wait, I skipped Molly.
No big deal. It's fine.
So my name is Molly, and like Eddie said, we've been married for 6 years, and I'm also on staff, and I am the assistant to the executive director of operations, which is a really long title to say I do things for TJ. So that's what my job is.
Awesome. What about you, Stephanie?
My title is guest experience director, and I've been with Water's Edge for about 5 minutes. So we've been attending WEX since 2016, and this team we're just getting to know each other and having a lot of fun. And we've been married for
21 years in July.
Yes. No way.
I know, 2 decades, people. So we got lots of material for you.
Can't wait.
Yeah.
For you.
I'm Jeff. I am not on staff like I think most everybody else. I'm a software engineer. Already went over married 21 years this July. So looking forward to another 20 and answering any questions that anybody has.
I do have one thing to say though. In the past 3 weeks, I'm sure everyone has been annoyed or possibly ticked. I heard a leader say, I was listening to a podcast, a leader said, people want leaders that are real, not right. So good news, we are real and not always right. And everybody but Jeff here has really struggled in the past 3 weeks. So yeah. Not to brag or anything, but I'm the least annoying person to live with. So.
That smile on Jeff's face says it all. It's great.
Okay, sorry guys. It's all on to you.
You go first.
My name's Corey. I've been working with Water's Edge Church for about 2 months, 2 to 3 months. I'm the director of facilities. I oversee all maintenance, building projects, security, set up and tear down at a Williamsburg campus, things like that. Kendall and I have been married for 8 years. So a little more than Eddie and Molly, but not much more.
I'm Kendall, and I am the guest experience manager for Newport News. I think I'm coming up on a year in July or August or June. I don't.
One of those months. It was summer.
Yeah, it was in the summer, and I know it's been
all blur because it's been just so much fun.
It has. There's no need to count. It's been fantastic.
That's great. That's great. Well, Molly and I have been on staff for 8 years, and both of us have been at Water's Edge for as members or attending for a couple more years before that, and loving every part of it. I did join staff 1 month before Molly, just so that's clear, everybody. Just throw that out there. Anyways,
everything is a competition in our marriage.
Yes, it is. So I just want to, so those are introductions. I want to go just real quick. We're going to do like speed round, lightning round with us. We're just going to do fun questions, and we'll start with Kendall and Corey. And I have 3 questions for you. And basically how this is going to work is I'm going to ask you a question. The way you answer is that's me or that's my spouse. And so you point to yourself, point to your spouse, and that's how you answer the questions. It's an either or. What?
But only there.
Yeah, only Corey and Kendall are doing first round. We'll do the same questions for each couple. So I get to cheat because I knew the questions. And anyways, okay, Kendall, Corey, here we go. Who fell in love first?
No, it was me.
Oh, okay, great. Who snores louder?
I don't know.
Like, don't snore? I don't know.
Hear me.
You're busy snoring.
I don't think I
You can
snore.
hear yourself snore, so that leaves the other person only, right?
I just asked him today. I was like, bring me home some earplugs, please.
Oh, I thought that was for the kids.
That's great. And then who is the better cook? Oh, yeah, that's quick. Good job. Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Played. Alrighty, Jeff and Stephanie. Who fell in love first? Nice. Okay. Who snores louder?
I guess me.
I'm
Okay.
pretty sure. I don't snore,
Yep,
remember?
and yeah, of course
I've
not.
never woken myself up, so I can't attest to that.
It's not very loud. I don't think either of us snore very loud.
Yeah. And then who's the better cook?
He wants to be like,
Some
he's
thought.
better. He's pretty good.
I just don't cook as frequently, so.
Sure. Alrighty. For Molly and I, who fell in love first? And who snores louder? And I do wake myself up sometimes snoring. So there's that. I don't realize that's why I'm waking up, but yes, it's exactly. And then who's the better cook?
Oh.
I think it's me, but he thinks that I don't season things enough. So
Just more salt. It's all good.
he likes a lot more
Yeah,
salt.
more
than
salt.
the average human being.
Alrighty, y'all. Just some fun stuff there, and so we're gonna go ahead and jump into the main content, the main reason why we wanted to kind of share tonight. But before that, just a reminder: don't forget to be commenting with questions, with advice that you might have yourselves. Kendall is why she's looking to the side right now is because she's checking all those comments and posts there. So be commenting with advice, funny stories maybe that have happened to you over the last couple weeks, just spending so much extra time at home with each other. And I think for the three couples here, all of us are actually spending the entire day at home with each other for the most part, right? Like everybody's working from home from the six of us. Yeah. So even if that's not your case, if you're watching now and that's not your case, one of you is still going to work. I know that even during the week, everything has been canceled. Like the gym group, every single thing in the world has been canceled. By the way, Pelicans still open in Yorktown. Anyways,
There you go.
so but everything's canceled, and so you're spending so much extra time together, regardless of if you are working at home, both of you or not. So this really does. It will be helpful for everybody, I believe. So. Be posting, and Kendall's checking those things. Kendall, why don't we just go ahead and see if there are any questions there. Is there a question ready, Kendall?
Yeah, you kind of answered the first part of Tiffany's question. Tiffany said, are any of you both working from home? And are you finding it's hard with that and the kids too?
Ooh.
You guys are probably the best to answer that.
Oh, for sure. Definitely.
Yeah. We have a babysitter who's still accepting our children, and
Yeah.
so thank God.
Yeah, we're at home working with all three kids here, and it's a completely different dynamic when we're used to working on site and they are going to school or going to the babysitter. With them here 24 hours a day and trying to work and be productive is extremely difficult sometimes. Yeah.
It's not so bad for us. We have teenagers. My daughter is quiet, or our daughter is quiet, but our son is quite loud. He's been gunning people down in Fortnite, and we know every time he's been killed because I think the neighbors can also hear.
The struggle is real over
Yeah.
here. It's exciting.
That's great.
Oh, that's awesome.
Great. So was Kendall, was there a what do you do in that situation part of that question?
That's probably what she was asking. How are we surviving with the kids and both working from home?
Yeah, go ahead, Corey. What you got?
Yeah, what you got, Corey?
Okay, I don't want to say there's any certain solution for it. It's difficult and you just got to push through it, really. I mean, a lot of the times we try to get them to have as much outside time as possible. So they play outside a lot, outside of some of the structured things we have for them. But yeah, you're not, there's no really keeping them away from you, so yeah, you just got to push through it, honestly.
And we do have
Give
little
the ages
ones.
of your children.
Yeah, the ages, is that what you asked?
Mhm.
Yeah, so ours are 7, 4, and 3. So yeah.
It's not, yeah.
Busy.
So Corey, I feel like I've heard you guys talk a little bit about maybe trying to swap parts of the day at all. Like hey, I've got this going on. I need 2 hours of uninterrupted time. I know when Stephanie, Kendall, and I have had meetings, I haven't seen kids, and so I'm assuming, Corey, you are just rocking it out with them. Is that kind of how it's been? Maybe not rocking it out, but maybe surviving with them. But how is that working?
Trying
Yeah, how's that working,
to do
buddy?
the best we can with what we have. Okay. Yeah. So if there's something specific like a meeting or she has a meeting on Zoom or I do, or there's a big workload on either side, one of us takes the kids and the other one can go downstairs and lock themselves in the room and get whatever they need done. That's basically how it works.
Yep. Nice. That's great. I meant to start with this question, just to keep it, because there are great things about being home so much more. So let's kind of, we already kicked it off, but let's kick it off again with answering that question. What's been the best part about being at home with your spouse so much more?
Does it have to be related to
What is it, Jeff? What's the best thing about being with me all day?
You brought me tea.
I do. I bring him tea.
That's
And we take walks. He's
Yeah.
like, do you want to go for a walk? And so
Yeah.
I get up and,
We-
our dog is like, what, a walk? Yes.
And
So
Blaze,
yeah, we take 2
what?
walks a day.
Does Blaze always go with you, or your kids always go with you?
No,
No.
no, it's quality time, just us.
Oh yeah, you can't break them off a fortnight and force them to.
No.
There's no getting him off of the.
No, evening is workout time with Blaze. So
Oh, nice.
after this, we'll hit the gym. So
That's awesome. Cool.
My favorite part is lunch. We have tried to be intentional about taking a break at the same time for lunch, and just taking time out of our day to sit with one another and see how we're doing.
Yeah, even today it was faster than it normally has been, but we just make our deli sandwich or whatever the case is. You made a deli wrap today, which was interesting, and we just sat outside and looked at. We're at this beautiful temporary rental, and there are deer outside almost all the time, so we were able to watch the deer go down to the water, which was cool.
Wow.
But yeah, so taking that, I think that lunchtime really has been best.
Well,
Sure.
I think the best part has been knowing that I have somebody else in the house struggling too, because I was a stay-at-home mom for 6-7 years, and he would go to work. And so when he would come home, he wouldn't understand the struggle. But so now to have a partner who understands what I'm going through, it definitely adds a new bond to the relationship.
It's great. Kendall, anybody on there we need to shout out and say hello to? Everybody jumping on there. If you're there, say hey.
A ton.
A ton?
Yeah, there's Jesse, Becky.
Give me your favorite 5. No, I'm just kidding. Just we'd like five of them.
We have top fans already.
Thankfully, it looks like quite a few of them have. Did I just read that?
Where?
Krista said, my kitchen has a baby gate. I hide in there a lot.
Amen, sister.
Fantastic advice.
Oh, that's awesome.
Pantry, laundry room.
Yes. Yes.
I like that. That's awesome. It's great. What other questions? We got more questions on there, Kendall?
Oh, actually, a lot. Well, what the best thing is, people are saying they're really loving the quality time with each other. So that's awesome.
Good.
Yeah, that's good to hear.
Yeah.
It's really
There's
good
a lot.
for those folks with quality time being their top
Love language.
love language. Yeah.
Mhm.
Great.
Okay, so we do have a good question. How do I gently let my other half know to not expect all the special dinners when things get back to normal because she is home and he is working? Great question.
That's really good. I think expectations need to be out in the open. You've got to share those up front, and be a little bit direct about it. I think that's okay to say, hey, this is a special time.
Yeah.
I'm so happy I can do this for you right now. But when I go back to work, I think you've got to make sure that we're realistic here. And
Yeah.
I mean, communication goes a long way. A long way.
expectation management. Yeah.
Yeah.
And talk it out.
If you're not putting them out in the open, then you can't expect the other person to know.
Yes.
Yep.
I like to think I have a mind reader for a husband.
Oh yeah.
How's that going for you, Corey?
You think yeah?
How's that go? So Ken, I'm going to make an assumption that this person is maybe enjoying making these dinners or nicer dinners, or is enjoying being able to do that for her spouse. And so I think you can start with that. You know, you can say, hey, I've really liked being able to make you extra special dinners, you know, going forward. And I'm really looking forward to doing that some more over the next couple, however long this lasts, you know. But man, I'm going to be bummed when I can't do that. You're kind of putting it on yourself ultimately. But at the same time, you are being direct in that, saying, I'm going to be bummed that I can't do this as much when we get back to normal. I mean, that's fairly direct while also putting it on you.
Yeah.
It's good. Cool. We're going to go to my list of questions. Dun, dun, dun. Okay. How has your routine changed since the quarantine, and how has that affected your flow as a couple?
Oh, I'll go. I think that we had a very consistent flow, especially in the mornings. Eddie and I carpool to work usually when we're leaving. So it's, hey, we're working together to get each other out the door and get to the babysitter on time so that we can get to work on time. And it was just we had a flow, we had a rhythm. We knew what each other needed to do in the morning. And now we're all in our pajamas all day.
Yes.
And, like, trying to get the kids in the car to take them to the sitter is mayhem because we're not getting them dressed in our normal flow, in our normal routine and things like that. It's just complicated things, and we're not going together to the sitter. It's just one of us. So you're getting both kids in and out of the car rather than doing that as a team. And so that's probably been the hardest change to our flow. And I don't think we've still figured it out, but we're working on it. Usually whoever's staying home in the morning, which is usually me, well, Eddie takes the kid to the sitters. I'm trying to get them dressed and help get them in the car,
And then you also pick them up at night.
Yeah, and then I pick them up at night. So
what about you guys? Let me read the question again. I always have to hear the question multiple times.
I think for us, we've been sleeping in longer. I usually like to go into the office early. I mean, I can work from home normally, you know, when we're not in conditions like this, but I do like to go into the office. But what I've noticed is instead of being at the office at 7, I have flexible hours. I don't have to be at a meeting until 9. So it's about between 8:30 when I start actually checking into work. So I think you've also been sleeping in longer.
What? Yeah.
Yeah.
And we can, I mean, our kids are on a different schedule.
Yeah.
So if they want to talk at, you know, the first time they want to talk to you is at 10 o'clock at night. And you're like, I do need to get up tomorrow. Like I have a real job, even though it's downstairs. So to like fit time in with them when they're all ready to talk or watch something or whatever, and still having that, we set our alarm, we get up, showering's optional, dressing is optional.
No, I got a shower.
Yeah,
every
he
day.
does.
Oh,
For me, it's optional. Yeah, so I mean, this is, I think in 20 years, this is the most time we have spent together in the house as a family. So it's interesting.
It's probably true for literally everybody,
yeah.
right? I mean, if you're home this much, even with vacation, even if you take a 2-week vacation, like you're not
Longer.
that much.
I do notice that I end up working later into the evening because it's like there's no distinct cutoff line. It's time to go home. Everybody's getting moving. So I'll end up putting in some extra hours in the evening when I don't really need to. The other thing I noticed working at home, I get more locked in on with programming, you get a problem thrown at you and then you just get tunnel vision onto it. You know, I'll be like, I'll go downstairs and get a tea, but 2 hours later, I'm still working on the same thing. So that's when it's been
That's
nice.
I bring him
Yeah,
his
yeah.
tea.
So.
It's great.
And I won't be doing that when you go back to work.
You missed that. I really loved being able to do this.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I really love bringing you
Yeah.
tea.
It's one of
He's
you.
a really nice tea maker at work.
Correct. It's great.
So,
She better not be cuter than me. That's all I have to say.
well,
Okay, sorry.
So, Kendall, I think this next one. Do you have one? Do you have one from the comments?
Yeah.
Go.
How do you determine, Elizabeth is asking, how do you determine whose career takes precedence when managing a family while working? When both partners feel as though their job takes priority?
I can relate to this one. I'm kind of the guilty party in this. Not that I think my job is more important, but for example, on Sunday morning, I was moderating one of the church services. And I was like, Eddie, why aren't you watching the kids? Like, I'm working. And he looked at me and he said, I have to work too. And I kind of had that moment like, oh, geez. Like, I was supposed to, like, I need to acknowledge that he has a job to do too. And so we let our living room become a disaster for a couple hours with toys all over the place and blankets all over and the couch destroyed. And but Eddie did sit with them in the same room with them just to make sure they were not killing each other. But
that's a good thing.
so that I could focus a little bit more. But it definitely took some strategic communication. Hey, I've got to be zoned in on moderating right now. I know you have to work too, but it took a minute. I didn't realize it right away. So sometimes I think there's some humility in having to just figure out who needs a little bit more space and time in any given moment. But you've got to work together to figure that out. There's no right or wrong.
And I think it takes some thought and planning ahead of time and communicating, like, this is what I have on my plate tomorrow. I'm going to need you to do this. And then other times just know that time when you're kind of managing the kids and keeping everybody alive, that you're not going to be 100%. It's not going to happen, and that's okay, because when you get back to it and you have that space that your spouse is allowing you to have, you can give it 150% because you're all there. So just managing your expectations of yourself during that time.
Yeah. And again, that communication thing. So that keeps coming up.
Yeah. It's an important one.
Yeah, we communicate priorities to each other. Kendall will all say, look, this needs to be done now. It's very important, high priority. And that's kind of how we do that, how we get around that.
So you're very explicit with using words like, this is high priority, this is low priority.
Now.
Yeah, mission critical.
Is that you're serious? Those are phrases that
I love it.
That's great.
I love it.
That's great. I just wanted to be serious. I want to make sure you're not joking. That is great, because I think that's a great tip. Again, just what Jeff said, that is communication. It's communicating those expectations of what you need to get done now versus the other person. And it goes back to compromising too, I think each of us even touched on that a little bit. You're going to have to take a hit here and there, regardless of if you think you have the heaviest job in the house or the biggest job in the house. So that's good.
And I think not taking offense is really hard. Just know that this is a first time new thing for both of you and for the world. And you're navigating it, and just be gracious with one another. I think assuming the best in your partner, assuming that they are believing the best for your family, for you. And when things get messy, just let the water flow. I just like to say, just keep it just keeps flowing, and no offense. Don't. So
it's good.
Yeah, and I think the communication thing, and I've said it several times already, but when you can plan, like if you have a heads up, like an hour or 2 hours later, hey, I'm going to be in a meeting and I'm going to need quiet during that time. If the other person or yourself, you have time to plan against something, then it doesn't feel as out of control when it just pops up all of a sudden. Hey, I'm going on a meeting in 5 minutes, and I need absolute
Take the
quiet,
kids.
or whatever.
Good. Kendall, I think maybe this one was your question. Do you approach an argument as having a right or wrong answer?
That was mine.
That's what I meant to say. I said it's Stephanie's question.
Yeah. Yeah. So approaching an argument instead of who's right or wrong. And I think a lot of people can relate to that because you feel like there's a sense of justice, or they're not seeing it from my angle. So how could they know what the right answer is? They're just not as right as I am. I don't know if anybody can relate with that.
We do that exclusively in our arguments. Yeah, it's either I'm right and you're wrong, or the opposite. Yeah.
Well, we just did that today.
Oh yeah, we had a huge fight today. It was pretty bad. Yeah.
Material for tonight, guys. That's why.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was
I think it was a lot of leading up from the stress of transitioning from our normal everyday lives to where we're at now, and then it kind of exploded a little bit. And
how did it end, honey?
how did it end?
How did it end?
You
We're right.
You realize you're wrong, and then
Yeah, how did that end?
Yeah, I think there's another question that this kind of goes into, but sometimes we when we get in fights like that, we just have to take a step back and just take a time out, recognize what's going on, and kind of put it in perspective as how God would look at it, and just have a change of heart, just try to make things better.
Yeah, I said, oh wow, look at this. We're doing a marriage Q&A tonight. How fitting for the enemy to have us attack each other over the littlest things. And it was priority, but it was also stress. And as soon as I got that out, we were both like, ugh. Yeah, we really were just bickering just to bicker. And I think once you understand sometimes where a fight is coming from, and it's a spiritual warfare, as soon as you get those words out, the enemy is done. He's like, crap, I've been found. All right.
But that's not the end of the story. I mean, your feelings in that moment of frustration or hurt or whatever, or feeling like you're the underdog, that's not the end. And that's what's special about relationships. And I feel like a turning point came to me thinking about communication and arguing. Jeff is usually right because he holds a lot of information in his head. So if it's like trivia, he's always right.
Not the case.
Yes, it's true. But sometimes about emotional or relational or stuff with the kids, he's been like able to stop and say, you know what, you're right. And I think approaching it not as who's right and wrong, but that you are coming together and you have a problem, you have an issue that needs resolved, and you two are like the best people to come up with a solution for you and for your kids.
I think emotions are good for getting something out into the light that needs to be discussed. However, it's not always the best time to discuss it. I mean, it brings it out there, but then, usually when the emotions have kicked in, you've already gone past the point of logic. So it's best to maybe cool off a little bit and then circle back and then have the discussion that the emotions brought out when cooler minds are prevailing, so that you can come to a real resolution.
I like the point beyond logic. That's me all the time.
Beyond
I
mean, once the emotions are fired up, there's really not much sense in carrying out an argument, because most of it's going to be based off of those intense feelings that you're having at that moment that not necessarily representative of the whole, state of mind that you're in, or I don't know exactly what to call that, but your perspective.
Mhm. I can relate to a lot of that. Like, I feel like we're big feelings people. Eddie always hasn't been, but I like to think I'm a therapist sometimes. And I always have to share how I feel.
Yeah.
Feelings are very important to me, and I need to be able to feel them. And so a lot of times we are this is how that made me feel. Well, this is how that made me feel. And then we kind of go our separate ways, and then we're like, okay. And we have to come back, and we usually come back humbled because we've been able to recognize the other person and how what emotions they were experiencing. But it's not an easy process by any means.
I love what Pastor J.R. Lee said at marriage night when he came and spoke. He talked about how when you're in an argument with your spouse and you feel like you're right, they feel like they're right. Sometimes that moment apart allows the Holy Spirit to work and convict the one who is actually wrong, and then that person can a little more easily come back and admit that and jump into humility that way. That's good. Awesome.
I do have to say that we learned from a counseling session that has really helped was to remember that my spouse wants the best for me. I think you guys said that he's not trying to hurt me. He's not trying to be malicious, but that he really does want what's best for me. And that can totally change your mentality. But like both of you said something about a break. For a while, we were doing these timeouts that when we would feel our emotions rise or when we would feel our heartbeat race, we would say, okay, it's time to take a timeout. You'd call however long and you would just go and separate. And that would allow the Holy Spirit to come in. But when you came back together, because you have to finish the argument, you can't just let it sit there. But when you came back together, you had to say 3 things that you love about the other person. And that instantly killed any bad feelings, It was those.
That's good. I like that.
Sweet.
Gotta share 3 things. I could totally see how that just kills everything. You're good.
We make the kids do it all the time too.
We do.
Yes.
My mom made me do that.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why I don't do it to my husband.
That's great. Kendall, how about a question from the comments?
This one might be funny, but do you miss the grandparents being able to watch your kids?
Sent from a grandparent.
From your parents? Because
Yeah.
Mom was one. Is that from her?
Do your grandparents miss watching the grandkids?
Yes. Oh man.
Yeah.
They're actually with the grandparents right now too, so.
That's great. So here's a fun question. How are you keeping the marriage alive? In quotes, alive. So you can take that however you want to. How are you keeping the marriage alive?
For us, it's all about the small spaces in between the chaos of the day, where we can just, if it's, the kids are outside playing, it's dinner time, and we look at each other like, let's eat dinner before we call the kids in. There's that, and then at night, take some time and play a board game or something like that. Life's crazy, on a regular day, so much more now. So yeah, for me, that's how I feel.
Yeah. I feel like that's keeping it alive for sure.
Yeah.
Especially when we eat dinner all by ourselves. That's heavenly. It's absolutely heavenly.
We're still trying to date, which is very difficult because there's not really places to go per se.
Yeah.
But creating intentional time for one another. Last night we had my brother-in-law, Eddie's brother. We put the kids to bed. He stayed here so that we could go, and we got pelicans and ate it in the car. We just needed a little bit of time to get out and be away from the house and be away from the chores and all the things. So it was really nice just to carve out time for a very simple, short date.
By the way, not bringing quarantine in there because my brother already lives with us. So we have a halfway built-in babysitter, which is great. That's good. Stephanie and Jeff, what do you guys?
I think for me, I try to be intentional about saying things that I appreciate about Stephanie on a day. I mean, they're just small things, saying I love you every day, or maybe a couple times a day when I notice her, or we're interacting and not in a Zoom session, for work. Say she looks nice, or notice if she's changed her hair, or if she's,
or I cut it off, or I get out of my PJs.
or if she's done something, just noticing what she's doing and then commenting to say, that I've noticed and that I appreciate it, or interest in what she's doing. So she likes
Stephanie, tell us about your.
What's that?
Tell us how quarantine got you.
So I was overdue for a haircut before quarantine started, because I only go every 6 months, and it had been like 8 months. So, after the shower the other day, I just pulled it back like this and went, boop. And Jeff turns and said, "Did you just do what I thought you did?" And I went, yes. And then I was like, it's that freedom you have for like 2 seconds. And then you're kind of like, then you're terrified. Like, what? I was like this much hair. So you guys get to see my handiwork today.
Yeah, it looks great.
It looks good.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's funny. Molly and I, it's not just necessarily been a quarantine thing, but we, one of the questions that we always ask each other, and this came up last night when I was cooking something, is why are you doing it that way? Why are you doing it that way? And so, or it's
I do that all the time. I tell him how to cook while he's cooking.
Like, I think those are done. I think maybe 10 seconds is long enough in the microwave.
Did you do this? Did you check that? Did you put that in it? Yeah.
No. So the question with that is, how do you manage expectations when working so close all the time? We've kind of hit on this quite a bit, but really the managing expectations and getting the expectations out there, communicating those expectations is huge. Pastor Stu did a sermon a while ago that talked about, it was managing expectations. I feel like it was so good. He could do this like every other Sunday probably, and it would never get old. But it's talking about managing expectations in that, the thought's gone.
That's
a lot of buildup. I was really excited.
I got it. So he was talking about unmet expectations versus unset expectations. And so I may have an expectation that Molly does X, Y, or Z. But if I've never actually communicated that expectation, it's an unset expectation. And so it's not really fair of me to hold Molly to an expectation that I've never actually communicated. And so that's definitely a little bit about setting expectations. That's helped quite a bit for me. It helps me then process in my mind, well, did I actually ever communicate that that's what I wanted to happen? Or am I just forgot completely? And then it goes back to the mind reading thing. Well, Molly's not a mind reader. And so she's not quite sure what I want all the time. So sorry, it's getting dark here. Apparently we don't have lights on this creepy porch. Anyways, anybody else got anything to add with the expectations?
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Kendall.
I learned. No, maybe you should say this.
I don't know what you're saying.
You should say this. I used to clean like really, really, really deep clean. And he loved it. Of course he did. He didn't have to do anything. But then, I was talking to a pastor one day about how Corey doesn't do the dishwasher right. And the pastor said, but he's doing it. Be thankful that he's doing it. And instantly it clicked. Like, you're absolutely right. I don't care how he does it. As long as it gets done, But I think I kind of took that mentality on myself. And I'm just
Like it's a breeze because you don't have to do anything like perfect.
because I don't really do much cleaning anymore.
You got really little kids. Is that how you feel about the shirts being folded?
What?
If I folded them different, would you refold them? And
It-
at least I'm doing it. Do you have that?
yeah, it's fine. They just stack easier on the shelf. That's all.
He has a very specific way he folds his shirts. So I'm trying to learn that usually I don't care and I'm just, we fold differently. So, but I took that early on in marriage, Kendall, and with kids. I mean, if you try to micromanage how kids do the chores, you will never be satisfied.
Yeah.
So we do go back and we'll kind of critique and tell
Apply a
them.
grade.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
got a
we grade
B
them.
plus or A minus or a fail.
Complete fail. But they're doing it, and that is key.
Yeah.
It's good. What's one tip for sharing the workspace? That's gonna be an all play. Everybody can answer this one. This is Molly's.
For sharing the workplace.
I highly recommend headphones. It cuts down on the noise when you're trying to communicate with people you're working with. Eddie takes a lot of phone calls. COVID Care 757 has kept him very, very busy. And I love that. And I love seeing him in the zone and doing what he loves to do. But it's distracting for me. So these suckers are very helpful. Headphones are great.
And generally, you only hear one side of the conversation because I got my AirPods in
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
whatever. So could be much worse.
It could be.
But you got
Could be.
headphones. So
Headphones.
literally, this was Monday. I think I went into the office to grab a couple things. She's like, "Hey, grab my headphones. Grab
I
my
need
headphones.
them."
I need them." And now I know why. It's not because she wanted to listen to music. Anybody
Yeah.
else tips for sharing a workspace?
I think the biggest thing right now for sharing a workspace is understanding the each other's workload, knowing and communicating when one person needs alone time to do some work, something very important, and when the other person does, because that involves the other person taking care of the kids and keeping them away. So I think that's for me that's the most important thing.
Mhm.
I think we're blessed. We set up different workspaces and at different places in the house, and gave Jeff a door he could close. But I do remember a time we were in a tiny house that was 700 square feet, and is that right? No.
It's close enough.
Okay. If he would be at the computer and I was doing school online, so I had to listen. I had a lot of work to do online, and that was a little more difficult because I had to take over the kitchen or the dining room, and then that wasn't there for dinner. So it is tricky, and earplugs and earphones got us through those times.
And I'm glad that we have separate workspaces because I like my area very clean and orderly. And
Hey, I'm
she's
creative.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. You're very
So-
creative, so there's stuff happening.
He
everywhere.
came down the other day and it's like, this looks like this room exploded. I'm like, it did. I'm starting this project. I'm organizing this. I've got this going and I'm working and it's magic happening.
I'm very creative. It's just all digital
You're just-
with text
true.
on the application. So.
Yeah.
Corey, Kendall, what tip for sharing a workspace?
Corey or Diego?
Oh, my bad. Kendall?
I'm kind of going to tie this into one of the last questions that we had from Melissa. How do you manage keeping the kids motivated during this time? I think I try to take on a new thing every other day, or maybe like make it a week thing. Like we just got out of the sandbox, new thing. So when it was my turn to watch the kids, all right, let's go play in the sandbox. And now they're kind of over that. So now we're going to bubbles. And so my son's got sticks and he's trying to pop the bubbles or kill the bubbles or whatever. But it seems to be working so far. is to just move the activity, I guess once they're bored, but try to keep it as good as possible.
Yeah, but when it comes to like schoolwork, because they're all out of school, that's been more difficult. I think a lot of times it's about expectations, because we like hard charged it. We're like, yeah, we're gonna make this whole schedule and we're gonna do this at this time every day.
Yeah,
And then
30
like
minutes, 20
2
minutes,
days
yeah.
later it's like gone.
Totally.
It's like that happens, and then we're sitting there like, man, this sucks. So it's about realistic expectations, but get them involved, get them active and motivated, but be realistic about what you can do right now.
Yeah.
How much they actually need
Yes.
of that time that's realistic.
Yes.
They're gaining a lot just being together and playing and having you guys there. So getting teens up and motivated to do school online,
Getting them to bed early.
getting them to go to bed. I'll wake up in the middle of the night and go over and say, go to bed. And they do.
And that's how that goes.
Yep.
Wow.
Passes quite quickly when you don't have any obligations or requirements to meet. The kids will be like, where did the day go? It's already gone. Well, you've been sitting playing Fortnite all day long.
Yeah.
Stephanie and Jeff, do you guys make, how old is your daughter? I can't remember.
18.
18. So she still lives at home?
She does. She just
Is she a senior?
She's a junior, so she'll still have to.
Understood.
So she's still school age, but she does work and her work is still open.
Gotcha.
So she has had that to do.
Have you, even though Blaze and maybe her have been staying up super late, have you been enforcing any kind of wake up time or, hey, it's time to get the day rolling kind of deal?
I want to say, honestly, we didn't completely hit our stride with that. Our thing is they have to have A's because they're smart enough. And if their grades drop, then we kind of bring in the boundaries tighter. So they did their work, they got A's, and now they're on spring break. So spring break, we're probably not going to do, but I'm going to make a quarantine routine and I don't know if we'll do it, but I would like it to be a little more structured because I'd like to get some work out of them.
Yeah. And I think it was last week or whatever, the teachers did have assignments for them where they could either get extra credit to bring up their third quarter grade and stuff. And they put it off a little bit late, but they
Came through.
They started working on Wednesday. They had to have everything done by Friday. So, but they got it all completed. So
Nice. Awesome. Yeah. So do we have maybe one more question from Facebook, YouTube?
It's a lot of people commenting in response to our questions. So no, but I went downstairs to go get this. For those who have little ones, it's called the Brave Learner. It is so good to remind you that the little ones are learning all the time. And that learning doesn't have to be sitting in front of worksheets or a screen, because like I was telling you guys in one of our meetings, I'm like, I have so much mom guilt. I didn't do this with them. I didn't do that with them. But if you just remember that they're always learning doesn't have to be in front of a worksheet.
And I think there are some rock stars out there. I have to say, even teen moms and moms of little kids who are totally rocking the homeschool front.
Yes.
And it's so hard not to hold that standard to yourself.
Yeah.
And but being at peace with who we are as the Wills family, and knowing and trusting that the Lord is at work here and he's at work in our kids, and that work is going to go to completion. Whether we did it Pinterest, Facebook worthy, probably not. I mean, we're not models, but we see fruit in our kids and our relationship. And so be yourselves and trust that God's going to move you to do what you need to do for your kids.
I like what you said earlier. To me, you said, trust that God will fill in the gap. And I think that's so true for our marriage too. Trust that God will fill in the gap for when life is crazy and it's not going as Pinterest, Facebook perfect as everyone else's life looks, that as long as your heart and mind is focused on God, he's going to fill in the gap.
That's right.
Great. Well, y'all, we have time for just the very last part of this. We all came up with just like our number one best in the world advice for everybody. And so we're going to hit those in, you got 2 minutes or less. And then we do have a fun next step for you if you're looking for something. So who wants to go first?
I guess I'll go first. Oh, I'll go first.
Last.
My general philosophy for marriage, it just kind of aligns with that, is that, I try to put her wants and needs over my own, especially when, maybe I know she's stressed or she's had a long day. And I think that's the biggest thing is just, she's stressed, the dishes are dirty, she probably doesn't really want to do it. Well, I'm going to do them for her. So that's, for me, that's the biggest thing.
That's great.
Can say come back to her.
Yeah.
I think for us, one of the most important things that we hold on to is you have to keep dating each other. It can't stop at all. You can't make excuses. You can't let life get in the way of date night. At the end of the day, for you to be the strongest for your family, you have to be strong with one another. So your spouse has to come first. You have to carve out time for your spouse. Yep. So sometimes our date nights are literally just, hey, we're not going to turn the TV on tonight. We are going to play cards and I'm going to kick your butt and it's going to be fine. And that's what we need to do. We just need to have a game night together. So it doesn't have to be this fancy, extravagant date, but you need to carve out intentional time for one another always.
Good.
Do you have something you want?
Go ahead, you can go.
So I think the most valuable thing, Jeff and I happen to be both kind of on the perfectionist side of things, which can really, rub the wrong way, or you're just really hard on yourself when you feel like you're failing. And I always say, I'm not rocking it, but I'm not flopping it. I'm like somewhere in between. And being okay with that is life, and just learning to laugh at each other, at ourselves. Early in our relationship, I don't think there was as much laughter, but we can really laugh at ourselves and how ridiculous it can get. So.
That's awesome.
Good.
Love it. Kendall, you had did you have an additional one? You said, come back to me. I'm not going to share an additional one. Jeff didn't. You don't have to. But if you have the best world and best,
Get it.
My words are absolutely gone for the day. What time is it? Almost 8 o'clock.
Throw one out then there, Eddie, is patience. Instead of jumping to a conclusion at the beginning of a situation that may be the beginning of a fight, or you don't understand and it's going to lead to a fight, being patient, waiting till you understand the situation before you make any snap decisions, and also get spun up. Wait and listen before flying off the handle. And I think the second part, and here's some bonuses, being intentional. Just life's made up really of small little interactions that occur all day long. You only get to go on that date once a week. You only get to go on vacation, maybe not even once a year. But it's those little interactions that occur throughout the day where you have a chance to communicate your appreciation and love and
smile at each other.
For each other.
Flirt.
Yeah.
It goes a long way.
It does.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Well, we appreciate everybody. Thank you for joining us online here. It's awesome to interact, even though we don't get to so much on Sundays or Wednesday nights or anything anymore. It's great to be able to kind of chat with everybody here, joining us online here. We just have one final thing for you, which is actually really, really exciting. Kendall texted us earlier today and said, hey, actually, we are going to start a group. an online virtual group that's going to start like ASAP. And yeah, both of you, Corey, did you know about this?
Yeah, I knew about it.
But Corey and Kendall are going to start a group. They're gonna start a group on the book Love and Respect. It's going to be Tuesday nights, 8 p.m. You can go to our groups page now, or just go to watersedgechurch.net, hit the groups button, and you'll be able to see their group on there. If it's not on there right now, it'll be on there immediately. We'll see on there so soon. Also, Kendall said, if you were to type in the comment, "Everybody needs a group!" ! She will reach out to you and personally invite you to their group. So if you're interested in the group, go ahead and type in "Everybody needs a group." Kendall will reach out to you. Thanks, everybody. We appreciate you, and so glad that you were able to join us. And hey, maybe we'll do this again sometime.
Yes, we have already had people asking, when's the next one? When's the next one?
Come on.
Love it.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we'll do it again.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.